Hello, my name is Emma Culp, and I am an elementary education teacher who teaches 5th grade. I am enrolled at the University of West Alabama in the Master's Program for Special Education 6 through 12. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about perceptions, and really those perceptions connected to articulation and phonological disorders. Perception is a way that we are aware of something, and usually that comes through our 5 senses. Articulation disorders are the inability to say certain sounds correctly and certain speech sounds, and this usually goes beyond the age when that skill or that sound is typically learned. Phonological disorders is the inability to correctly form the sounds of words, so it falls into that phonics, the makeup of words. When we're dealing with both of these disorders, it's very important to talk about perceptions, because the perceptions are not only for the individual with the disorder, but we also can take a look at the perceptions that other people have about these individuals. So when a child's young, the perception that they have of their speech is not very detailed, because they don't really understand what they're saying and if it's correct or not, because they're still in the process of learning. And the same thing is true for individuals looking at that child's speech. A lot of times we play that off as cute, or we say, that that's just something that they're doing because they're little, and we don't make corrections to the things that they do wrong. So for example, if a child was supposed to say the word yellow and they said the word rello because they don't have the ability to say the Y sound, we often say, oh, that's so cute, and we don't correct that. And we just kind of let it go because they're young and they're still learning. So at that age, the child doesn't really have a perception of what they're doing because they don't really understand, because they themselves are still learning. But as that child transitions to middle school and then into high school, the perception begins to change because they're aware of it, their peers are aware of it, they become super self-conscious about their speech being underdeveloped, being different than their peers. So it's no longer cute and no more something that we praise that their speech is different. It's something that's super sensitive to that child, and it's also something that creates social problems and interaction problems for that individual because their speech is often underdeveloped. A lot of times those individuals choose just not to talk that much, not to communicate that much, because they're embarrassed or they're self-conscious about their speech. But specifically, the perception changes when we move to adulthood, because individuals with articulation and phonological disorders really struggle in their adulthood in regard to perceptions, because the articulation and the phonological disorders can affect all the communication that adulthood brings. So for example, if it's a job interview or, talking to someone at their job, a lot of times that communication can be disturbed because of these articulation disorders and these phonological disorders. And it can make that individual have a hard time completing certain skills and certain tasks in life. It can make them have a lot of trouble communicating and having, developed social skills. So it can really change the perception, because that individual is super aware of it at that point, and also everyone in their life is super aware of it. And a lot of times people are more negative towards adults who have articulation and phonological disorders, because they a lot of times say that person is, uneducated or, not up to speed with everybody else. So it's quickly seen through adults, because of course our perception is that we should all be fully developed by the time we're adults, when truly that's not the case. Articulation and phonological disorders are tricky when you're talking about perceptions, because when you begin, the perceptions are kind of harmless. They're kind of, seen as an area for us to kind of just not really worry about, but it begins to change when they're in middle school. It becomes a problem, and we see that. And then, if that problem is not seen and not started to correct, it really becomes a problem for that individual as they continue into adulthood. Perceptions change a lot because we as humans have the mindset that individuals should all be equal in their development. They should all be where we are, and they should all be there and be perfect, when truly that's not the case. Many people consider speech as something that we should be better at the older we grow and the more we develop, which is true for some, but not true for others, because sometimes it's missed as a child. So articulation and phonological disorders are something that are tricky, but they're also something that perception plays a huge role in. It can be something that is positive or negative to the effect of the individual. Thank you for listening.